Japan is one of the quietest places you can ever be, and somehow one of the most intense. You won't notice it at first. Living in Japan isn't about surviving the pace, it's about surviving the pressure to never disrupt it. Most people think moving to Japan is about learning the language, getting used to the trains, maybe understanding the culture. But that's not what breaks people. What breaks people is the realization that you're never allowed to let your guard down. Not on the street, not at work, not even in your own apartment when the walls are that thin. You start to feel it around month 3. This low hum of awareness that everyone around you is performing a version of themselves that's been sanded down, polished, controlled, and now you're expected to do the same. You'll wake up one morning and realize you've stopped making noise when you walk. You've stopped talking on your phone in public. You've stopped existing at full volume. And the terrifying part? You didn't decide to change. It just happened. Because Japan doesn't force you to adapt. It makes adaptation feel like the only way to breathe. Before we go deeper, if you've ever felt this, or you're curious what it's really like to live somewhere that rewrites your instincts, hit that subscribe button. We're breaking down what no one talks about when they romanticize living abroad. And trust me, this goes places you're not expecting. Silence in Japan doesn't mean calm. It means everyone is holding something in. You'll be on a train with 200 people and you could hear a pin drop. No one's on their phone, no one's talking, everyone's just there. At first it feels respectful, peaceful even, but then you start to notice what's underneath it. It's not that people don't want to talk, it's that they've been trained not to. The silence isn't voluntary, it's enforced by 1,000 tiny social cues you didn't even know existed. A woman laughs too loud on the platform and you see it. The glances, not angry, just aware, registering the disruption. She notices too. She stops. And you realize that's how it works. You're not told the rules, you're made to feel them. After a while, you stop laughing on trains too. You stop talking to your friend in restaurants. You start moving through the world like you're trying not to leave a trace. You become hyper aware of every sound you make. The rustle of your jacket, the click of your shoes, the volume of your breathing. Things you never thought about before suddenly feel loud. And the strangest part? You don't even realize you're doing it. There's this moment, usually happens around month 4 or 5, where you're back home visiting or you're on a video call with family and someone says, "Why are you whispering?" And you weren't. You were talking at what feels like normal volume now. But Japan has recalibrated you. That's when the silence stops being about respect and starts being about survival. Because you've learned deep in your nervous system that making noise has consequences. Not legal consequences, not even social ones, really, just awareness. The feeling of being noticed. And in Japan, being noticed is the thing you learn to avoid. If this is hitting different than what you expected, drop a comment. Let me know if you felt this anywhere else. Because it's not just Japan, it's what happens when an entire society runs on restraint. And I want to know, where else does this exist? You can be surrounded by people there and still feel completely separate. Tokyo has 13 million people, and you will never be alone. And somehow, that makes the loneliness worse. Because proximity isn't connection. You're packed into train cars where you can feel someone's breath on your neck, but you'll never make eye contact. You're in restaurants with strangers 6 inches away, but no one acknowledges anyone. You're in a city full of people, and every single one of them is in their own sealed bubble. And if you're an outsider, that bubble never pops. You'll try. You'll smile at someone in a convenience store. You'll say good morning to a neighbor, and they'll respond. Politely, perfectly. But there's a wall there. Not hostility, just distance. A kind of politeness so airtight it doesn't let anything real through. It's not personal, it's structural. Japanese society isn't built for spontaneous connection. It's built for harmony. And harmony doesn't mean closeness, it means no one disrupts anyone else. So you walk through crowds every day, you hear voices, you see faces, but you never touch anyone's life. and they never touch yours? There's this thing that happens around month 6. You stop trying. You stop smiling at strangers because the smile doesn't go anywhere. You stop attempting small talk because it lands in this polite void. You stop hoping that maybe this interaction will be the one that feels human. And then you become one of them. Moving through the city like a ghost. Efficient, quiet, separate. And you start to understand why people can live in the same apartment building for 10 years and not know their neighbor's name. Why coworkers can sit next to each other every day and never ask a personal question. Why you can spend a year in Tokyo and leave without a single real friend. It's not that people are cold. It's that connection requires disruption. And disruption is the one thing the system cannot tolerate. So you stay in your bubble. And they stay in theirs, and the loneliness becomes so normal you stop calling it loneliness. You just call it life. That's when you start to understand what isolation actually feels like. It's not being alone, it's being surrounded by people who will never let you in. And slowly realizing you've stopped trying to let them in too. Everything works, everything is clean. And slowly you start wondering what happens when you don't. Japan doesn't fail. The trains are on time. The streets are spotless. The convenience stores are stocked like clockwork. At first it feels like a miracle. Finally, a place where things work. But then you start living there. And you realize the cost. Because that perfection isn't automatic. It's maintained by people who are grinding themselves down to keep it running. Salarymen who haven't seen their kids awake in weeks. Store clerks who bow to every customer even when no one's watching. Train conductors who point at signs and announce stops with military precision over and over for 10 hours straight. And the second you step into that system, you're expected to perform at that level too. Doesn't matter if you're tired, doesn't matter if you're struggling. You show up, you execute, you don't complain. Because complaining disrupts the system, and the system cannot be disrupted. So you learn to hide it. The exhaustion, the frustration, the cracks. You smile, you apologize for things that aren't your fault. You bow lower than you think you need to. And every single day you feel the weight of trying to be enough. Because in Japan, enough is perfection. And perfection is the baseline, not the goal. You'll see it in the smallest things. A cashier who wraps your purchase with the precision of a surgeon. A janitor cleaning a bathroom that's already spotless. A salaryman apologizing profusely because the meeting started 30 seconds late. And at first you think, wow, this is impressive. But then you start doing it too. You recheck your work 5 times because good enough doesn't exist. You apologize for things that aren't mistakes because that's what everyone does. You stay late even when there's no work left because leaving on time feels like giving up. And the crushing part? No one's forcing you. There's no boss standing over you. No explicit rule. But the pressure is everywhere. In the way people look at you when you leave at 5:30. In the silence that follows when you say you're tired. In the unspoken understanding that if you can't keep up, you simply don't belong. That's when you realize the system doesn't break you with demands. It breaks you by making you demand it of yourself. If you've ever worked in a place where good enough isn't good enough, where the bar keeps rising no matter how high you jump, you know this feeling. Let me know in the comments where you've felt this kind of pressure, because I guarantee you're not alone. In Japan, emotions are felt quietly, and if you're not built for that, it weighs on you. You'll never see someone yell in public. You'll never see a couple argue on the street. You won't even see someone cry on a park bench, and at first it feels dignified. But then you realize it's not that people don't feel those things. It's that they've been taught not to show them. Anger, you swallow it. Sadness, you hide it. Joy, you keep it measured. Because emotional expression is disruptive. And disruption is the worst thing you can cause. So people hold it in for years. Until it comes out sideways. And you see it in the businessmen passed out drunk on the train at midnight. Because that's the only time they're allowed to let go. You see it in the suicide rates that no one talks about. You see it in the phenomenon they call karoshi, death from overwork. You see it in people who just disappear. And if you're someone who's used to talking through your feelings, if you're used to venting, laughing too loud, crying when you need to, Japan will make you feel like you're too much. Not because anyone says it, but because the silence around your emotions is deafening. There's this moment that happens, usually around month 8, where something breaks. Maybe you have a bad day at work. Maybe you get homesick. Maybe nothing specific happens at all. But you feel this overwhelming need to just talk to someone. Not polite conversation, real talk. So you reach out to a coworker, a neighbor, someone you've been friendly with, and they listen. They nod. They're sympathetic. But there's this gap. Because they don't know how to respond to raw emotion. Not because they don't care, but because they've been trained their entire lives to keep theirs buried. So the conversation stays surface level, and you walk away feeling more alone than before you started. That's when you start to understand what emotional isolation actually means. It's not that you can't feel things, it's that you can't share them. And when you can't share them, they start to calcify inside you. The frustration, the sadness, the anger, the joy. All of it gets compressed into this dense, heavy thing you carry around. And you start to wonder, is this what everyone here feels? Is this what they've been carrying their whole lives? And the answer is probably yes. But you'll never know for sure, because no one talks about it. Some people find peace in structure. Others feel like they're constantly being measured. If you're someone who likes routine, who values discipline, who doesn't need a lot of external validation, Japan can feel like home. The predictability, the order, the clarity of expectations. For some people, that's not pressure, it's relief. Because they don't have to guess what's expected of them. They don't have to navigate social ambiguity. The rules are clear, the structure is solid, and if you follow it, you're fine. But if you're someone who needs spontaneity, who needs emotional release, who needs to be seen, Japan will quietly suffocate you. And the hardest part is that no one's trying to hurt you. Everyone's polite. Everyone's helpful. The system works, but the system doesn't bend. It doesn't make exceptions. And it doesn't care if you're struggling. You either adapt or you break. And most people don't realize which one they are until they're already there. Until they've signed the lease, started the job, built a life that's hard to walk away from. That's when the real question hits you. How much of yourself are you willing to lose to fit in? Because that's what it costs, not your time, not your money, yourself. The version of you that laughs too loud, the version that cries when you're sad, the version that strikes up conversations with strangers, the version that needs mess and chaos and emotional honesty. That version doesn't survive in Japan. Not because Japan kills it, but because you do. Slowly, quietly. One small adjustment at a time. Until one day you look in the mirror and realize you've become someone you don't recognize. Someone efficient, polite, contained. Someone who fits. And you have to decide if that's who you want to be. If you're thinking about moving abroad, or you've already done it, leave a comment. Tell me what surprised you most. What you had to give up. What you gained. Because this conversation matters, and I want to hear your side of it. The truth is, every place changes you. The question is whether the change is worth it. Japan doesn't overwhelm you all at once. It slowly teaches you how much of yourself you're willing to contain. And that's the question you'll carry with you long after you leave. Not whether you could live there, but whether you should. Because some places don't just change where you are. They change who you become. The quiet becomes part of your nervous system. The restraint becomes your default mode. The isolation becomes so familiar you forget what connection felt like. And when you finally leave, if you leave, you realize you brought Japan home with you. You still apologize too much. You still move through crowds like you're invisible. You still hold everything in. And you can't tell anymore. Is that growth or damage? Japan will do that quietly, precisely, permanently. Whether you're ready for it or not. If this video made you think differently about living abroad, or Japan, or what it means to adapt to a place that doesn't adapt to you, hit that like button. Share it with someone who's thinking about making a move. And subscribe because we're diving into more places where the dream and the reality don't line up. Next week, we're looking at what it's really like living in Iceland. And trust me, you think Japan is isolating? Wait until you see what 6 months of darkness does to people. See you in the next one.